Alright guys, lunchtime back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. I'm the worst, man. With the release of a new COD, if you're a true competitive player like myself, the hype of a new Call of Duty isn't until the launch of competitive, whether that's ranked play, whether that's playing wages at the beginning of the game. The game truly doesn't start for us until the competitive map and rule set is out. So today we're going to talk about just that. Recently, things have been moving towards the competitive side of things regarding Call of Duty news. So we're going to talk about the start of the new season, how the current maps look, particularly for Hardpoint, as well as the third game mode potentially being leaked by an Xbox user. But before we do that, we need to talk about Infinity Ward and how what they're doing can change things for the Call of Duty scene as a whole. I mean, look, Infinity Ward is literally trending on Twitter right now because of what they've done. So essentially, Infinity Ward has doubled down on the things that the more tryhard players hated about the beta. One of those being the minimap red dot. So if y'all haven't played the beta yet, or if you haven't seen gameplay of it yet, basically when you shoot, your red dot doesn't show up on the minimap. The design reason for this is that we do not want to punish players for firing their weapons. We want players to actively search out the origin of a gunshot versus just traveling directly to where the dot is on the minimap. Fortunately, from the true competitive side of things, there should be a setting in private matches to take this off so it won't affect us too much. However, I feel like this is even further distancing the gap between the casual player and the competitive player on Call of Duty. In my dream universe, Call of Duty would be free to play. Ranked play would be the first and foremost aspect of the game in terms of what they focus on. And then everything casual in terms of 6v6 arcade, so on and so forth, would be more of like an afterthought. However, I know that I'm biased towards the competitive side of things. That's just my opinion. But I feel like the current state of gaming nowadays is more directed towards a competitive or a ranked mode as the first focus of the game. In similar fashion, Infinity Ward also said they're basically not changing their perks and they're not changing Dead Silence. Yet another gap between the casual and the competitive focus of things. Currently, the perk system, I don't entirely hate it, it's just weird. So you only choose 2 perks and then gradually over the course of the game, you unlock the 3rd and the 4th perks to that slot. Infinity Ward have said that they've balanced the ultimate perks to be more powerful as you earn them later in the match, but they'll continue testing throughout the beta to see if they can improve the flow of all perks. Now, another one which the community seems entirely split over is Dead Silence. I personally believe that it should be a perk, not a field upgrade, especially in S&D, because it's not fun to watch people corner camp and crouch walk until they get their Dead Silence and then they play fast. Infinity Ward's reasoning for keeping it as a field upgrade is that it creates a balance between freedom of movement and predictability of combat. I kind of disagree about that. They also said it's important to game health that rushers are not able to move at high speeds without consequence. From what I can tell, is just another example of catering towards the more casual audience. One thing I wanted to mention as well is the slide cancel. It seems like mostly positive feedback in terms of the removal of slide canceling. They said that they are aware of the workaround and are contemplating how to fix it for weekend 2 of the beta. I currently don't mind how it is now. If you want to add all those extra inputs just to get a slide cancel, they made it so that your slide to fire time is a lot slower than your sprint to fire time, so it truly doesn't help you that much to slide cancel in the state of the game right now. I'm about 50-50 whether or not I want to see that changed, and personally it doesn't matter too much at the end of the day. Another thing I need to mention as well before I stop ranting about Activision is that literally today I was supposed to play in a $10,000 tournament for a Cold War throwback hosted by Optic Hitch. And the crazy thing is that the tournament was postponed, not because of Optic, not because of Hitch, but because of Activision. Activision literally stepped in and said, hey, you can't throw this throwback tournament, not on Wednesday. And that blows my mind. They shouldn't make it more difficult to host tournaments, especially on a day where literally nothing's happening. At least nothing that I know of. I just feel like for the betterment of competitive Call of Duty as a whole, they shouldn't make it harder to host tournaments that would make people more excited about what's going on in the competitive scene. Now that I'm finally done ranting about Activision, we can go into the more competitive side of things and how the maps look right now. So CDL Intel tweeted out the current hardpoint rotations for the 4 beta maps. This one is Farm 18. There are 8 hills on this one, and then 5 on the other 2 and 7 on 1. Before y'all panic like I was myself, apparently in Modern Warfare 2019, some of the maps had like 10 to 20 hills. And then by the time the game was released, or at least by the time competitive was allowed, they narrowed that down to like the 4 or 5 that would normally be seen in a competitive rotation. That being said, they seem to have kept the typical hardpoint rotation style of 1 in the middle and then alternating between opposite sides of the map for 2 to 3. 4 to 5, so on and so forth. When we go to maps like this, I have a feeling that they might swap out the 2 and the 6 or the 3 and the 5 or completely get rid of one or the other just after seeing how the hills play compared to the opposite one that's right nearby. Here's how they look on the hotel map, and then the last one, the museum map. Now onto the good things. What Call of Duty has done, or at least what the Call of Duty League has done, is made the season start way closer to the release of the game, this time in December of 2022, with the season starting, as you can see here, on December 2nd. What is also super cool is that the very first event is also going to be in December, this time in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is close enough to me so that I could go there. I'm really excited about that. Other cool thing about it is that it's going to be a pro-am tournament. So the amateur players and the pro players will both have the chance to compete against one another. And we might see some crazy upsets there. It's going to be an absolutely insane event. I believe they're doing COD Mobile Champs, as well as the Challengers Open, and then the Call of Duty Endowment Bowl. Super exciting things coming early on for the Modern Warfare 2 competitive side of things. It's going to be a blast. Now, the other events that'll happen later on in the year, Major 2 being hosted by the Boston Breach, Major 3 back in Optic Dallas. That'll always be a fun time. And then Major 4 happening in the New York City, hosted by the Subliners. They haven't announced where the very last major, or at least they haven't announced where Major 5 is going to be. Another question that I have that hasn't exactly been gone over yet is, what does it mean now that Call of Duty is on a 2-year cycle for the competitive side of things? Will champs be hosted at the end of the first year that the game is released? Or will the competitive season kind of have a resurgence throughout the second year and champs will be then? I really don't know how I prefer it to be. I'm just excited for some competitive Call of Duty to be played, but Infinity Ward's gonna have to up their game if they want the game to stay good, competitive, and fun throughout both years of the game's cycle. Now, in terms of ranked play, the literal words ranked play were said at the COD Next event when the game was first released. However, in terms of ranked play, we haven't heard much since then. There's rumors that Treyarch will be the lead in terms of ranked play, which is what they did for Vanguard. Would be a really good thing because Treyarch does a great job at ranked play. They have a good team in charge of that, and I have confidence that they'll get it right if they were to implement it into Modern Warfare 2. The only thing that I want is ranked play released as early as possible. If it could be at the very start of the competitive season, that early December 2nd launch, not only the start of competitive Call of Duty, but the drop of ranked play, that would be so hype, especially that early on in the game, not having to wait till like February or something like that. I personally would love that a ton. And now for the bad news. An Xbox player was able to get into the private match section of the Modern Warfare 2 beta, where they saw, in terms of Call of Duty League modes, Hardpoint, Search and Destroy, and Domination. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of Control. Control is fun and all, but it's not the best game mode. My personal favorite, I would love to see Blitz. I would love to see Capture the Flag. Something like Uplink would be a ton of fun. Domination is just not it. From a competitive standpoint, it's okay, but from a spectator standpoint, and that's the gripe I have with Control as well. Control is fine, it's a competitive mode, but it's not fun to watch as a spectator. If you show somebody Capture the Flag, they will understand. Even if they haven't played Call of Duty, you have to grab a flag and bring it back to your base. In Control, even as someone who plays Control, when you watch it competitively, it's hard to determine what exactly is going on and where the stakes of the game are. I personally hope this changes. Even a change from Domination to Control would be great, but fingers crossed for a CTF mode or something similar. Now, the good news is, during the beta of Vanguard, CDL Domination was also shown, so it's not entirely chalked. Daniel Say responded to a tweet where somebody said, "Domination, please say psych," and he responded with the psych. I really hope this is good news, and that Domination won't be returning as the third mode, but time will tell, and we'll see. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in terms of everything competitive Modern Warfare 2. Do you think it's going to be a good year? What are your expectations for a third game mode? Would you like Domination? Would you want the return of Control? Or would you like to see something a little bit different, like Capture the Flag, Blitz, Uplink, something like that? As always, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, let me know down below with a like or a sub, and I'll catch you next time at lunchtime.